Good morning and welcome to episode 42 of AI GTM Talks. We are happy to have you today joining us on LinkedIn Live, YouTube. And my name is Iyer, and with me is Prashant Mantri from GTM Walnut. Prashant, how are you?
Hey, good to meet you, Mani. Doing well.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. And so, folks, we've been doing the series of talks, and uh, we bring on either AI GTM tech CEOs, revenue leaders, GTM operators, experts, um, folks who've got a lot of experience around, just the whole journey as your go-to-market is getting transformed because of AI. And hopefully, there's a lot of learnings for all of us, a lot of insights we can all share with each other. I think, Prashant, maybe we can kick it off if you wouldn't mind, just to introduce you. I know you and I are working together, with helping a number of customers, joint customers, mutual customers. I know you run this, agency or company out of Bangalore. Um, and it's been a pleasure working with you, Prashant. So I'm glad you could join us today. And I know the topic for today is something super interesting, I would imagine, for people, which is I don't think it gets discussed a whole lot, right? The whole idea of uh, how do you build micro ICP, extremely targeted lists of accounts, cohorts of accounts that you can then operationalize in the outbound, process, if you will, to engage prospects. So I think that's a broad topic. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Prashanto, because I know you have a series of slides you've got for us, and then we're going to have a whole conversation or discussion around it. So over to you. Let me just switch to the next slide, and just keep me let me know as we want to keep moving. Over to you.
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much, Mani. Really excited to be here. I know we've been talking about this episode for a long time. I think this would have been episode number 30, and I'm sort of
Okay.
12 episodes late.
Yeah.
And it's been great working with you as a colleague and trying to solve GTM for a bunch of companies.
Yeah.
It's a really exciting time. It's honestly a really exciting time, especially with AI in marketing.
Yeah.
Um, I think to quickly introduce myself, I run this company called GTM Walnut that's focused on, solving go-to-market for companies in the B2B space, but purely focused using AI. Um, and the sort of inspiration that I got, I mean, and I started GTM Walnut about a year ago. And before starting GTM Walnut, what I was doing is I was doing revenue operations. The stuff that we are going to talk about today and the bunch of stuff that you're already doing, we were
Yeah.
actually doing all of that manually, right?
Okay. Okay.
And over a period of time, I actually realized that with AI coming in, there's a huge opportunity for AI transformation. It's like those days during the dot-com bubble when people were trying
Mm.
to go online. This is this phase where marketing is seeing a dramatic transformation using AI.
Yeah.
And I think one of the and we've sort of worked in across solving go to market for a bunch of companies.
Yeah.
Um, I think I remember, and I'm sure you can relate to this as well. About 5 to 6 years back, I remember I was creating a lead list for a company, and I
Mm.
literally had to get 10 people to research those accounts, and it took us 25 days to get the research done.
Oh my God.
And after the research was done, it took us another 5 days to manually sit down, create those messages, and send it out to people. So it was a tat of close to 30 days, right?
Yeah.
And by then, our bosses, our founders were like, "Hey, where's the revenue pipeline? Why is it not building up?"
Mm.
And I know the way. I mean, we've sort of worked closely with setting up Kwanzu and a bunch of AI tools. All of that stuff can actually be done in literally 4 to 5 days. So it's like a 10x leverage that we are able to get using
Yeah.
this, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think the stuff that I did manually at one point in time turned out to be the inspiration. And thanks to me getting introduced to a bunch of people, I'm getting introduced to people like you, and then Kwanzaa, we are able to solve things. And
Mm.
I think the slide that I have over here is a interesting use case. So I think until 2020, 21, there was the traditional outreach that was happening, right?
Mm,
So you have a marketing team, you have a bunch of SDR sitting, and the only thing that you had was you could create blogs, you had a website, and then you could probably get a bunch of lead lists. You research manually, and then you'd have to either pick up the phone call, send them a manual email. There was not even LinkedIn automation at that point in time.
mm,
Post the COVID era, I think what came up was there was a first level of automation outreach that had come up. The cost did go down, right? Because you had some level of automation coming up. There, one person can send to many people using some sort of an automated tool. Research was getting automated a bit, but then what it actually created is so. In basically what that led to in 2025 is there was a lot of noise then. Basically,
mm.
everyone was spamming everyone's inboxes, their LinkedIn DMs with a lot of messages.
Yeah.
That's when in the last couple of years, and you're the expert at this, a lot of signal based outreach is helping us get that reply rates back up again. So if you see the if you see the slide that I've mentioned over here, the reply rates basically go down in the first level automation outreach, but then the signal based outreach, you get the reply rates go up because you're doing a much more targeted outreach. You know that these people are ready to buy from you. They're
Mm,
they're showing those very specific signals. There are some internal triggers and events happening within the company, and
yeah.
hence what has actually happened is that the cost of signal based outreach is literally one third, and the
Mm,
reply rates go as high as three times what it was 5 to 6 years back. So from
got
an
it.
ROI standpoint, obviously there is a tool setup cost, there's a GTM engineer, there's someone who's got to understand all this AI. That's the sort of initial one-time setup cost that's there. But over
Yeah.
the longer run, the signal-based outreach obviously is the way forward for all of the companies going forward. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, Prashant, right? We've been deep in this space, as you said, for the past 2.5 years, 3 years now, and there are so many interesting signals, right? There's person level signals, there's company level signals on your website, off your website. I think, yeah, I'm sure we're going to get into a lot of that and all the kind of different kind of micro lists that you can build. So let me go on to the next slide. So maybe we can discuss this next. So I think you're talking about different kinds of micro lists here, right?
Yes, 100%. So imagine a world where you've been given a lead list and we have no information about what the company is doing or what the prospect is doing. In the absence of all of that information, you are forced to just reach out to people blindly, right? And about 95% of that outreach may not be relevant to the prospect because they are probably not ready to buy your product. And what creating micro lists, and on the screen you can see about 7 to 8 different ways in which micro lists are actually helpful is that um, basically what it actually does is that let's say you're looking at a large list of companies that you have. Now how would you prioritize reaching out to a set of people? How do you prioritize reaching out to a set of companies? Because I'm sure you have a TAM of say 100,000 people. I'm sure companies have a company list of more than 50,000 companies, but not all of those companies are probably ready to buy from you at this moment. Not all of those companies would be willing to get convinced by the product that you're trying to sell or whatever communication that you're trying to do with them. And that's where over the past 1.5 years, what has happened is with the advent of AI, with a lot of tools like like Kwanzo with BirdDog and bunch of other tools that are there in the market, there are about 7 to 8 micro plays that exist. There are literal playbooks that have been created around this. So, for example, I'll just give you an example. Um, there's this company who is trying to reach out to companies who are trying to open new manufacturing units. Right now, how does the information come? For example, whenever a consumer packaged goods company tries to open a manufacturing unit, they basically release a lot of news articles, and there is a way to scrape all of that information. There's a way to find out, crawl through websites. They must be making a lot of legal announcements. They must be making announcements about hiring in those local areas, right? Now, finding all of that information, having a very deep contextual intent around it. So, for this manufacturing unit case, someone would say that, hey, we've figured out a place and we're going to open this manufacturing unit in the next 2 years. Oh, in the next 6 months, they'd go ahead and figure out hiring. And then in the following 6 months, they'd set up the production line and so and so. Now, that information is very valuable to someone in the company because it would actually signal this, this company is trying to, establish a manufacturing unit. At some point in time, will probably need my services. Now,
Yep.
that is much, much better than just shooting in the dark and just, reaching out to a bunch of leads. So the micro list that I've shown over here, so expansion is just one way. We have seen a huge amount of response from new hires, and new hires. What we've started to do in the past 6 months is that we're trying to segment new hires in the in the 0 to 3 months bucket, and the new
Mm.
hires in the 0 to 1 year bucket, because the 0 to 3 months are like really excited to get something new done in the company, and then the 0 to 1 year are probably people who are settled in, know about
Mm.
the product and things like that. Um, and then when it comes to lookalike lists, and I think Mani, you and I have just worked with a company where we created a very huge lookalike list recently. The
Yeah.
idea behind a lookalike list is that when you have no idea who to reach out to, I think it's important that whatever set of customers you have, you just find
Mm.
out all of the customers who are similar to that existing customer, and you
Yep.
start to reach out to them because you are much more confident. Um, yeah, I think I'll take a pause over here, Mani. I think you've done a lot of things on lookalike, so I'd hand it over to you for a while. Yeah.
No, I think I agree with everything you've said so far. I mean, lookalikes. Yes, we've been, for example, modeling lookalike to one of our customers that gets lots of traffic, website
Mm.
traffic, and then they are selling it to the SMB market. So their targets are low ACV, customers, and they have millions of those low ACV customers. So that's a profile of an account
Yeah.
that goes beyond standard firmographics.
Yeah.
You're not just thinking company size and revenue and industry. You're looking at who are they serving, who are they targeting, what does their traffic look like. So looking at other attributes above and beyond the typical standard attributes.
Yeah.
So
Makes
that's
sense.
one flavor of customer. The other is the typical SaaS AI, doing mid-market and large enterprise.
Yeah, makes sense, Bunny. I think it's important. I think the point that you mentioned when it comes to, companies who are trying to sell to very specific markets, um, we did a very interesting exercise when it comes to lookalikes. So the good thing about lookalikes is that when you reach out to lookalikes over a different set of customers, you are much more confident because you've actually sold to a similar customer in your space, and you're getting, you have like paid revenue coming in, right? That's the first point, because the good part about is, let's say a lookalike customer would want to have a demo with you. You are much more confident because you can actually show what you've implemented with someone else. Obviously, keeping aside the NDA and all of that stuff aside. The second part is that um, basically your chances of conversion with a lookalike customer, and we have some data to prove this, the chances of conversion with a lookalike customer is almost 2.5 times than a normal customer. The reason behind this is when a sales development representative or an account executive, or let's say you're doing an email marketing or a LinkedIn outreach, right? When you actually mention that you have solved a problem for a company in the similar space, people are excited that, okay, you've this company has a has a measurable ROI. It has solved a problem for a similar company in my space. They've solved the problem. I want to get the same solution, right? That's one of the precise reasons why lookalike companies will respond to you the most compared to any other things in the micro list.
Yeah.
And any company that we go to, for example, if There's another interesting use case. For example, if a company is in a pre-product market fit stage, right, and they don't have any revenue, they have like literally zero customers. What could they do? They can actually look at their competitors. They can look at a few customers of their competitors and try to create a lookalike list of those customers of their competitors, right? So that's low hanging fruit because you know that your competitors already solved the problem in a similar space and it has sold to a bunch of customers. So lookalike is very, very powerful, be it a pre-product market fit or be it a product market fit scenario. And
Yeah.
whenever we go set up GTM motions, that's the first micro list we sort of go after. Um, I think I'm going to move to a couple of other micro lists. Talking about website visitors, I think it is one of the most underrated,
Yeah.
use case that we see. I've seen companies having almost like 100,000 website visitors coming in, but people say that, is it even possible to find people who are landing on my website? Um, I think in 2026, there is going to be a huge education that's going to go on, obviously, with a lot of content going in. People are going to get to know the fact that it is possible to de anonymize people coming onto the website. And with an accuracy of up to 80%, we can find out their LinkedIn profiles or even point to their email IDs and actually do an outreach to them. The second level of the deeper level of information that can come from websites is that, are they going onto their pricing page? What are the sort of websites or web pages that they're going onto? Are there any hot pages that you've linked where your customers are continuously coming and having a look at it, right? Now, when
Yeah.
you have all that sort of information, it allows you to optimize your website more. And the second thing is that, and we actually solved this problem for an AI security company that's trying to sell, AI security to companies within the United States. They launched a really great, like how do I put it, like a leadership thought, a thought leadership article on, say, Reddit, on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And on seeing that thought leadership article, a lot of people started going onto their website. And then they were actually seeing like a 3x 4x spike in their website visitors. And it was a good thing that we had already installed like a de-anonymization tool at that point in time. It was
Mhm.
really, really helpful that they could get like so many warm leads out of that entire process. So one of the lead magnets can be that you post some content across on some of the channels like LinkedIn, like YouTube or Reddit or anywhere, or if you've done a webinar or something like that. And when people actually land on your website and you have this tool, website visitors, then actually becomes a very, very powerful tool. And today, Kwanzo obviously has a website visitor de-anonymization tool, and there are a bunch of other tools. The good part is there is no manual intervention. All of this can sync with your, like your CRM, your HubSpot, your Accio, your Go High Level, and all of that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think you're right. I think that you pretty much touched upon a lot of the key tactics and strategies. And in fact, as you know, we've been continuing to build out our signals hub. So I think, as you said, we originally started with website de-anonymization. Then we added offsite intent at a person level, so you could figure out, who's showing interest, has buying behavior around your product or solution all across the web, 90,000 different media sites. Then we've layered on something called contact monitoring, where you can, just input all the key accounts and prospects and people you really care about, put in their work email. We can then tell you when they show buying signals, then we tell you, we give you an alert. And the latest thing actually we've been adding into the product set, and I'm glad you have it in this slide here, is social signals. I mean, social signals on LinkedIn, social signals on Reddit, and we're going to considering adding beyond that. But I think social signals are a great one. I see you have keywords. So keywords, you think, things like job postings. Is that what it is?
yes, so it has been a slightly different, play over there. So basically, there are a bunch of job postings who speak about. So, for example, in job postings, someone says that this person needs to be an SAP expert or this person needs to know HubSpot, right? Now, when someone is actually speaking about those keywords, there are ways to go through, each of those job descriptions and find out if they are talking about very specific skill sets. And if
Yeah.
they're speaking about very specific skill sets, it means that they are trying to look for that solution, and that's a very important trigger for us to reach out to them. Yeah.
Yeah, so let me keep moving because Prashant, I know you have a lot more material you want to
Yeah.
cover. So let me just go to the next slide here, which I think you want to talk about is how you go about building lead lists, and then I think you're going to go from there into how you're going to go about set up the campaigns, run the campaigns. We're going to walk people through the entire process, right? Of not just how do you source the micro ICP lists, account
Yeah.
lists, but also how do you actually execute. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So lead list building is a very, very important activity, one of the most underrated activities because people mostly think that it's just a bunch of, leads that you're downloading by putting in some keywords into a software like an Apollo, Prospeo, or a ZoomInfo. But it's important to know what sort of lead list are you building? Is it a static list, or are you getting it from the intent signals, or the micro lead list that we just spoke about? um, Once you get a sense of what is the source from which you're getting the data, the next filtering that is very, very important is what are the firmographic filters that you want to apply? What is the revenue size that you want to go after? For example, if you're a pre-product market fit and you're trying to sell to consumers, or you're trying to sell to customers in the enterprise space, they may not respond to you immediately. So you want to sort of go after companies in the $0 to $50 million space, right? So it's important to narrow it down to that revenue bucket. Employee size makes sense in specific cases if you're trying to sell your product where it's dependent on the number of people that you're trying to sell to. And in case they have some sort of tech stack that they're using, and it helps you understand that my software or my solution sits on top of that tech stack as well. The next thing is what sort of industries and job titles that you want to go after. In the beginning, it's important that you don't go after more than three industries and just focus on the top three job titles. And that could be like a founder, VP, director, or someone in the mid-level range, like an associate director or senior manager level. But having that understanding on what are my top three industries and what are my top three job titles is very key so that you have a much more targeted list in the beginning. Um, Exclusion list is very, very important over here because I'm sure a lot of people watching this have actually used tools like Apollo, ZoomInfo, and Prospeo. But when you actually create a lead list, a lot of companies list themselves in a similar space, meaning they're listing themselves using keywords. For example, if you're trying to target a software company, but there are a lot of agencies listing themselves using keywords, it's important for you to exclude them because agencies and say consulting firms are not your target ICP, or say job titles like an intern or a chief of staff, or some etc., who potentially may not be a decision maker or an influencer who would want to buy your product. And then once a lead list is created, there's a tactical point over here where it'd be important to do a validation on the sort of people you have, the email validation, and then there's the cleanup and the normalization activity on job titles, on the first name, last name, so that you have very clean outreach going on. So yeah, I think this is in short about how a lead list gets created. I think Mani, if we could, yeah, you wanted to.
No, no, I agree. And what I find interesting and useful about this slide is that you've kind of bucketed and explained all the sources and all the process that the kind of the entire process that you got to go through to build one of these lead lists. So I find this kind of content I think is a lot useful, pretty useful and helpful, right, to people because they need to be able to they can use it as like a reference and they can kind of work off of it. We've been doing something similar, by the way, where I'm helping out in terms of we have a couple of large founder communities, and a lot of founders are confused about this kind of stuff. And so what we've done is we're putting together these spreadsheets, and the spreadsheet we're actually creating different GTM capability areas, and for each capability we're actually documenting literally the steps for signal based outbound, or for LinkedIn content distribution, or for AI SEO GEO, on and on, right? So uh, even positioning and messaging. So I like these kind of list based things. So it's very checklist oriented, and it very helps people think through, okay, I got to do this, and we are also actually trying to help educate people on what is the tech or the tools that might help you in every single step. And I know you have a lot of insight on that, Prashant. So I'm sure people can reach out to you after, right, to get some of your insights on this stuff. But I think so.
Absolutely.
Now we talked about list building. Help us understand what happens next. So you have these micro ICP lists; those are accounts. Then you've got, so once you have the accounts and maybe you have can you talk about maybe account prioritization, lead bucketing? How do you drop different leads into different maybe sub lists, if you will, maybe at a campaign level, because you might have to have different messaging based on what those cohort of leads are that fall within a micro ICP account list. I know
Absolutely.
you have a lot to cover here, so I'm going to let you go at it. Hopefully at
Yeah.
a high level for another 5 minutes or so. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, sure. So we've spoken about how you want to create a lead list. We've spoken about what are the different types of signals that we can use, a micro list that we can create, right? Now, this is
Yeah.
actually the entire orchestration engine. So basically, your demand generation falls into three buckets. One is you'll have cold leads coming in where you don't have any sort of trigger intent available for those accounts. The second set of lists are where you all of your warm leads, where we talked about finding companies from website, from your from your websites, from social media monitoring, from new hires and things like that. And then the third set of leads are the leads that are already sitting inside your CRM, right? Now, in each of the steps, it's important to first prioritize what sort of accounts that you want to go after. So when I say prioritize, based on the revenue, based on the propensity to buy, based on specific signals and say revenue bucket, job title, and things like that, you actually score each of these leads and you prioritize the outreach, right? So to keep it very simple, you say I'm going to prioritize, score my accounts on a 0 to 10. The 10 are accounts where these companies are saying I'm expanding, these companies are hiring in so and so roles. I'm going to reach out to those accounts first, versus all the accounts that are saying that are not showing any signals, not hiring any people, potentially not ready to buy at the moment, right? So on the left hand side, if you see there's cold leads, warm leads, HubSpot leads, that's where it starts from. That's what you need to, I mean, every company needs to decide what sort of demand generation orchestration I want to do. And then
Yeah.
as you move forward, there is a lead prioritization and there's a lead scoring that happens. Now, based on companies that are able to give you signals and not able to give you signals, you have I mean, today with AI, with the Claude, with availability of like Gemini, Claude, and all of those things to personalize messaging, we can actually personalize messages to people at scale on email, LinkedIn, on WhatsApp, and a bunch of other channels. Now,
Yeah.
if a company is not doing any sort of LinkedIn or email outreach, these signals would any which ways be, very, very relevant to an SDR. So imagine a world where this information is not available. The person would just reach out to them without, any knowledge. So basically, that person has not. It would seem as if the person has not done any homework. But now with the warm intent available, with a lot of AI research available, we are actually reaching out to prospects in a manner that shows that we have done our homework, we've deeply researched about those accounts, and the chances of conversion obviously goes up. Now, in order to do this outreach, there's an entire, email, LinkedIn, and a WhatsApp, and a bunch of other infrastructure setup that is required. We basically create secondary domains and inboxes. We don't touch the primary domain and the inbox for reasons so that it does not get blocked. And we use tools like, Email Bison, Instantly, HeyReach, and Limblist, which allow us to automate outreach to people at scale. And then all of this today, there's a possibility to sort of use a bunch of AI agents. So once replies come, we can send notifications to people on Slack. We can send notifications to on messages, on email, and so and so. So yeah, I mean, this is how the entire orchestration piece is, helping companies at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, Prashant. And I'm thinking about the way we think about, right, as we're building our tech and our companion service offerings. Um, So, for example, right, what we found is different customers, we find different kinds of customers. So we go into some smaller SMB customers, and one of their key problems is they don't have enough traffic coming to their website.
Hmm.
So we're trying to help them solve for that with an inbound marketing service offering. So that's on one side. And so the idea there is then that is a feeder into this orchestration workflow you've got, in that they can then source more leads off of your website, the warm leads that you called out here. So you have more de-anonymized website visitors that they can then feed into this kind of workflow and funnel. The second one we've got is the outbound campaigns and workflows, and that's where you come in, right? I know you and I've been working together. Our company's been working together, supporting a bunch of customers, right, on outbound campaigns and workflows. A third distinct area we are actually seeing across companies, across customers, and I think it has a lot to do with that it's not easy to do, in my opinion. And that is the actual, I know it's one little box here in your orchestration workflow, but it actually is not that easy. It's this whole idea of doing one-to-one personalized messaging well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing it well is not easy, right? Because to
Yeah.
do it well, you really need to be able to do actually pretty good, solid research on the account. You
Yeah.
got to have any and all insights you can get on the prospect. What are they doing out on the public web or on YouTube, or can you tailor the message to some recent event at that company? Can you
Yeah.
tailor it to that individual and his or her preference in terms of they don't like it if somebody pitches them hard. They have a certain tone, they have a certain communication style they're more receptive to. They have certain hot button issues. They have some business drivers that they care about more and they care about less. I think figuring all that out, maybe, I'd love for you to comment on that. Like, it's not easy to do, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree to your point, Money. It's not easy. There are multiple steps to figure out a way to personalize that. And I think there are two sort of things that are happening today. One is for certain set of accounts, we've actually seen that there's too much information coming in because there are so many signals coming in, right? How do you prioritize and how do you create a narrative around so many signals to do an outreach to the people? And the second thing is obviously when you don't have any sort of information available, how do you personalize messages to people? Um,
So what's
I
your
think
what's your
it's
guess on this? Yeah, Prashant, what's the state of the art? Like, is there any magic here? I mean, is it, or is it more, I mean, account scoring, lead scoring, people talk about it conceptually, but in reality, in terms of how you actually operationalize it, that's the other area I've found company after company, having their challenges. So
so there are two things that we
prioritization
do.
and messaging. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, I think there are two things that we do today, Money. And what we do is the lowest, I mean, the easiest way to do is if you have multiple things, multiple amounts of, like multiple signals coming to you, the important point is to use all of those signals and just run multiple campaigns and see which campaign is giving you the highest reply rate, right? In a period of 30 to 45 days, you'll see that out of five campaigns, maybe two are working and the three signals are not working. That's an indication that just prioritize on two signals and discard the remaining three, right?
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think the second part, this now what I've figured out is this part is the easier part. The second part is a very key skill, and that's where prompt engineering comes up really, really well. Is how do you take all of these signals that are available to you, create a narrative around it, use very deep prompts using AI, and just send out messages to people that is most relevant to them, right? Because at certain points in time, there's so many signals coming in that you just bombard people saying, "Hey, you're doing this. This is what I'm trying to sell. Hey, you're doing that. This is what you're trying to sell." It does not work that way. It's important to so there are two things basically over there. One is you test out what triggers and what signals are working for you based on the way you're personalizing, and just run campaigns which are working. Don't run campaigns which are not working.
Yeah.
Second, use prompt engineering as a way. There are people who write up to like 5 to 10 pages of prompts, and their prompts are so sharp that
Hmm.
AI is able to consume all of that information and creating a very nice narrative email. So it's like a storyline email, and it doesn't seem like AI is actually written that, right?
Oh, that's amazing.
You create really great personalized messaging, but the skill behind that is how good are you at creating those prompts using AI, and that in itself is a a skill to learn over the next say 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we work with, for example, a messaging and copy expert,
Yeah,
and I have seen some of the email sequences he's built, and the LinkedIn sequences, and then the call nudges. When you get somebody on the phone, what are you going to say to them, and then the call sequences. Amazing stuff, because at least for now, he's the best we've seen so far, right? So we're always
yeah,
interested. Anybody listening, guys, if you have some incredible skills with crafting, uh, interesting, high quality, engaging, multi-touch email sequences, LinkedIn sequences, voice call scripts, we're always open to have a conversation. So yeah, I think that's the differentiator in my view. Um, Everybody's going to have the same signals, but the question is, how do you utilize the signals? How do you operationalize signals? How do you get the message,
yeah,
the right kind of message out of the signals is the trick. And then the other thing is also other behavioral data. For example, when you have people that are getting de-anonymous on your website, it's what did they do on your site? What pages did they go to? That's another interesting data point. When it's off-site intent, it's about the topics that they engaged on. That's another interesting data point. I think, as you said, this is there's
yeah,
lots and lots of innovation that's already happening, and more to come. I'm going to
yeah.
move to the next slide. Can you explain what this is? What are these strategic campaign workflows?
So, as I think we've covered the orchestration piece. Now, how do you
Yeah,
convert that into actionable campaigns that you can run and start getting results, right? So, as
correct.
I'd
Yep.
mentioned, you'll have a list of accounts where you could keep them under the bucket of cold outreach customers because you're not seeing any signals coming from them. So, that's the first level of campaign that you'd be running, or rather that comes as the I would say that runs parallel to the all the accounts where you're trying to get some signals. The second set of campaigns that you would be working on is all of the companies where you have some sort of personalization possible. For example, website visitors, they're expanding, new hires, and so. Um, usually what we've seen is about 50 to 60% of the campaigns that run are based on warm intent, and about 30 to 40% of the campaigns that run are based on cold intent. Warm intent campaigns perform 2 to 2.5x better than cold intent customers. The reason being, you've researched and you found out that these customers or these companies are ready to buy from them. Obviously, it costs a bit more on the warm intent side because you're using a bunch of tools to personalize the messaging. You're trying to use a bunch of tools to find that information. But as I covered in the beginning, signal based outreach will give you almost like a 3x, 2.5 to 3x more output compared to cold outreach. The third, fourth, and fifth complement the first two, strategic campaign workflows. So the third one is basically CRM contacts reactivation. Companies that have so, usually companies in the 5 to 10 year space, they have like you know, a CRM that's having more than 10,000 leads, and you'd want to sort of, figure out a way to reach out to them based on, your interaction date, your recency. Are any people within your CRM who had been a champion, who had purchased your product and who has switched jobs? That is a great
Mhm.
signal. So that person
Yep.
usually goes to a new company and tries to get your product there as well, right? So that's there are strategic campaign workflows around CRM systems. Um, and it's always and then the fourth one is always good to kind of start keep an eye on what your competitors customers are doing. For example, customers usually talk on social media saying I'm not happy with this product, and
Yep.
that is a great way to kind of reach out to them and say I've got a better product, right? So it depends on how you position yourself better than your competitors. And the fifth is like webinars, events. So there's one thing that we are doing really well when it comes to events right now is for the clients that I'm working in is as soon as there's an event, we try to figure out who are the people who are trying to attend that event, like a
Yep.
proper conference that I'm talking about. There's a way to
Hmm.
crawl those websites, find the information, and all of we can enrich and find out email and then LinkedIn profiles of those people. So before you reach the conference, you've actually reached out to them saying, "Hey, I'll be at the conference. Would you like to come and meet me at the booth?" We've actually seen some, almost like, so let's say there were like 10 people who'd come to the booth. Now we are seeing almost like 20 to 23 people coming to the booth because you're already reaching out to them before the event, right? So whenever we do some sort of, tactical campaign workflows, these are some 5 to 6 ways in which we do. So cold outreach, warm intent, CRM contact activation, competitors, customers, and then webinars and events.
Yeah, no, I can vouch for the event piece because we've done that. Like,
Yeah.
like I remember last year we were going to go to one of the events here in the Bay Area, and we did one of those pre-event things, and I was, I was booked. I was completely booked at the event, with, just a ton of
Okay.
meetings. Um, and so I know that we ended up doing a lot of the things around ICP, kind of boxing the prospects you're going after around your ICP, your key titles, key personas, pre-event outreach, having a proper customized booking link that's only for the event, like 15 minutes,
Yeah.
calling out where you're going to meet them at the event, like what's the location, what, some lounge, some virtual lounge, some area. So I think there's a bunch of things to think through, but I agree with you. I think this is a good one. Let's talk next then about. I think you wanted to kind of walk people through an example, right? So this you want to just show literally what I think you built an ICP, micro ICP account list for one of our mutual clients. That's what you've
Yeah.
got here, right? Yeah.
That's
Go
right,
ahead.
Mani. And I remember we did a lot of brainstorming and what sort of ICP filters that goes into creating this list.
Yeah.
It took us about, and I remember you and I, we spent about, I think, 2 to 3 days just getting specific keywords right, because
Mm.
the company wanted to go very specific on the sort of segment that they're trying to reach out to. So um, in this slide, I think I'll not touch upon the very nitty gritties of it, but what's really important to know is the 2 to 3 aspects. That is, what sort of company size that you're going after, what sort
Yeah.
of revenue that you want to target, as in what sort of customers revenue, or rather what sort of buckets that they're in that you want to go after,
Yeah.
and what job functions and what like what industries, what companies, and what job functions that you want to target.
Yeah.
Once you have that lead list, or rather that basic TAM ready, and I urge every company, probably people watching on this, or probably like anyone who sort of wants to have a conversation around this, the first step that you'd always want to do is create this TAM list, so that then 6 months, for my 6 months, for my 1 year outreach plan, I have X number of customers and X number of accounts that I want to go after. Now everything after that is just a filtering out of, okay, this segment is reacting, this segment is not reacting, right? So the
Mm.
idea of showing this ICP filter list is that create some important company size, revenue, industry, job function list. Obviously you can put in all the like the job titles, the industries, and the functions that you don't want to go after. uh, there's one point that I'd like to highlight over here is, when you're trying to search for companies list themselves using different description keywords. So on the screen over here, you can see there's computer software, information technology, cloud infrastructure, and so and so, right? So if
Yeah.
someone wants to actually reach out to DevOps or cloud infrastructure companies, you need to input those keywords so that you have a very targeted list. Otherwise, you're gonna come up with a list that is so massive and that does not turn out to be your ICP. And then as you can see, that it's important to exclude some companies that
Yeah.
are not part of your ICP. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely like that part because I mean I'll tell you, I mean, a couple of things that's very I think people will hopefully take away from this is uh, the more work you put in upfront, the better your outcomes are going to be.
Yeah.
The thinking through the titles down to title keywords, thinking through not just inclusions but exclusions. I've seen people can do a lot better. I think all the work that follows, it's so dependent on this, so it makes a lot of sense. Okay. So I think we should probably wrap things up, Prashant. So, what is the big takeaway for people who are listening Micro ICPs, the big takeaway is do a lot of the work up front, and then the payoff comes later. What's yours?
That's right. In this, I think the first thing obviously is I would say at a very high level, embrace AI, right? Eventually,
Yeah.
in 2 to 3 years' time, everyone's going to move in this direction of trying to do intent AI signal-based outreach, right? The sooner you do it, the better it is.
Yeah.
Second is whatever sort of outreach you're doing, if you're not embracing AI, that's fine. That's a choice of yours, but try to go as hyper targeted as possible. Try to create segments, create an
Mm.
orchestration engine, create a demand generation engine that fits into your cold outreach, your warm outreach, and then contact sitting into your CRM. Build micro
Yeah.
lists, experiment as much as possible. Without
Yeah.
experimentation, you'll not know what sort of customers are responding to your messages. And
Yeah.
then once you have a playbook, figure out a way to scale all of that. And eventually you'll see that a flywheel gets created, that your costs are going down, and the number of demos that you're having goes up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Prashant. And folks, I know we've got my contact info yours over here. Please reach out to me, reach out to Prashant. And that concludes episode 42 of AI GTM Talks. Thank you, Prashant, for joining us. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.
Thank you so much, Mani.